In a world where instant gratification and constant distractions rule our lives, the idea of becoming a master through solitude and discipline seems nearly impossible. But what if the key to greatness, true, undiluted greatness, lies in exactly those two things? One man, over 400 years ago, chose the lonely path. He fought over 60 duels and never lost. He became not only a master swordsman, but a philosopher, artist, and strategist. His name was Miyamoto Musashi. What made Musashi more than just a warrior was not his sword, but how he wielded time, silence, and discipline like a blade, cutting through the noise of life to shape his identity. Welcome to the unfolding journey, where we dive deep into the lives, philosophies, and inner transformations of some of the greatest minds and souls in history. If you're passionate about growth, wisdom, and the stories that shape our inner worlds, you're in the right place. Today, we explore how discipline and solitude played a defining role in the personal and spiritual evolution of Musashi, and how his life still offers lessons in our overstimulated modern world. The origins of a lone wolf. Miyamoto Musashi was born in 1584, a time of upheaval in feudal Japan. He lived through the transition between the chaotic Sengoku period and the more stabilized Edo era. Orphaned at a young age, Musashi grew up without a traditional support system. That early experience of abandonment and instability may have sparked a self-reliant character, a tendency to trust in no one but himself. By age 13, he fought and won his first duel. And from there, he walked a path few dared to follow, wandering from town to town, sword in hand, purpose in heart, with no master to serve and no home to return to. His solitude wasn't circumstantial, it was intentional. This early phase of isolation was more than a reaction to loss. It was the beginning of a conscious rejection of convention, and the first seeds of self-discipline took root. Discipline, the foundation of mastery. Musashi's path was not only defined by physical strength, but by relentless discipline. From refining his sword technique to studying calligraphy, painting, sculpture, and even Zen Buddhism, he approached every endeavor with military rigor. To him, the sword was merely one extension of the way, or do, and that way required absolute focus. In his seminal work, The Book of Five Rings, Musashi wrote, "You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain." To climb that mountain, he imposed extreme structure on his life. He often deprived himself of luxuries, comforts, and distractions. He ate frugally, slept little, and trained constantly. Even in his later years, he secluded himself in a cave, Ryagando, to meditate and write. For Musashi, discipline wasn't punishment. It was liberation. Through it, he gained control over his body, mind, and destiny. Today, we tend to think of discipline as restriction. But for Musashi, discipline was power. It was through structure that he found freedom. The power of solitude. While many samurai swore loyalty to lords and served in structured military roles, Musashi remained a ronin, a masterless warrior. His choice to walk alone was not an act of rebellion, but one of spiritual clarity. Solitude was his crucible. Through long stretches of isolation, he developed deep self-awareness and spiritual insight. He stripped himself of societal noise, of expectations, of unnecessary bonds. The silence of solitude forced him to confront himself, over and over again. Imagine walking alone for days, dueling for survival, sleeping under the stars with no guarantee of tomorrow. That kind of solitude isn't loneliness. It's an internal forge where the ego melts and the soul sharpens. Solitude allowed Musashi to hear the subtle truths most people drown out. In the Book of Five Rings, he reflects, "Perceive that which cannot be seen with the eye." That is the gift of solitude, the vision that comes from within. Discipline plus solitude equals transformation. The synergy between Musashi's discipline and solitude is where transformation happens. Discipline without solitude can become blind obedience. Solitude without discipline can become aimlessness. But together, they act as a refining fire. During his self-imposed exile in Ryagando Cave, Musashi composed his most profound insights, not only on combat but on life, art, and being. This wasn't a retirement. It was a final crucible. He put down the sword and picked up the brush, showing that the way was not just for war, but for living. He created ink paintings, poetry, and even garden designs. These creative expressions emerged from the same disciplined solitude that once honed his swordplay. It was the clearest proof that Musashi had not only mastered the external world of conflict, but also the internal world of spirit and reflection. Lessons for the modern world. In our modern era, Solitude is scarce and discipline is often misunderstood. We are surrounded by stimuli, notifications, headlines, dopamine hits. In a world like this, Musashi's life feels alien, but it's never been more relevant. We often seek quick hacks to success, fast paths to mastery. But Musashi teaches us that greatness demands time, silence, and consistency. You don't become unbeatable by accident. You become great by saying no. No to comfort, no to distraction, no to shortcuts. His life invites us to ask, when was the last time you sat in silence with your own thoughts? What part of your day is driven by true intention? What would your life look like if you applied unwavering discipline? Not for a week, but for years. Musashi didn't seek approval or fame. He sought truth, and he found it within himself. Final reflections. Becoming your own master. Musashi never had a teacher in the traditional sense. Life was his teacher. Pain was his tutor. Nature, solitude, failure, repetition, these were his textbooks. But more importantly, he became his own master. He built his own path, walked it alone, and never stopped refining himself. He wasn't chasing perfection. He was living in constant transformation. And that's the core of his legacy. Not just the undefeated swordsman, but the man who mastered himself. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life and lessons of Miyamoto Musashi. If this story moved you, if it sparked a new perspective, or if it simply reminded you of the power of focused living, we invite you to be part of our community. Backhand index pointing right, subscribe to the unfolding journey to explore more timeless philosophies, ancient wisdom, and stories of inner transformation. New videos every week to inspire your mind and spirit. Until next time, walk your path with discipline, listen to the silence, and never stop unfolding.